Hi, everybody. Today we are going to talk about food. Food is what our lives revolve around. We are constantly doing a dance with food, and we can either learn that dance and feel really capable and really great and enjoy it, or we can resist it and yet still be roped into the dance and feel clumsy and ill timed or unhealthy or unwell or like we're tripping over our own feet. But it is a dance that we all have to be a part of because as humans with a household full of other humans, it's just something that has to be talked about. I think this is one of the first things that I remember starting to pay attention to when I was really keying into other people that I knew who were working outside of the home and had children as well. I was starting to pay attention to things like timing preferences, how they grocery shopped. Some of the things that I want this video to kind of be a jumping off point for a few kind of like subsection videos. So this will kind of be an intro and one of the main topics that I'm going to talk about as far as like a food system for the household. So things that we're going to talk about later are um, convictions around nutrition, rhythms and rotations for for food types and recipes, health needs. We are very fortunate not to have any allergies in our household. And so that's not something that we have to navigate. So I'm very thankful for that. And I know that that is not everybody's story. So I will speak to what has worked for us. Other things that we'll talk about are literal grocery shopping tactics that have been really, really helpful for me in different seasons of our lives with the different ages of kids. COVID times and what we've learned from that as far as like curbside ordering and what's been helpful, how to strategize that with the work week at the weekend. Other things that we'll talk about are, stocking the fridge, different ages of kids and preferences versus needs. What else? Hosting, prioritizing different meals at the table. So we're going to talk about those things in later videos. But what I really want to kind of hone in on today is meal planning. Now, please note that I did not say meal prepping. I said meal planning. That is a very important thing for me to distinguish here because meal prepping, when I hear that phrase, and it might be different for you, but when I hear that phrase, the resources that I have seen that utilize meal prepping is somebody taking a large amount of time, a couple hours, let's say, for example, on a Sunday, to prepare the ingredients for the recipes they'll use the rest of the week. So making all of the meat, utilizing, and I think that this can be a really awesome, efficient, financially savvy tactic. It takes foreplanning. It also takes having that amount of time. Let's say on a Sunday, do I have a time period between 3 and 5 p.m. or whatever it might be to prepare these ingredients? Do I have the fridge space? Do I have the Costco membership that is actually going to make it beneficial for me to buy those bulk ingredients so that I can make several stacks of prepared meat? And again, needing to store that somewhere. Do we have a chest freezer in order to store those ingredients so they don't go bad and we waste our money? So a lot of those things go into it. I have determined for our family over many times of considering it, the pros and cons, weighing the pros and cons, seeing people do it super successfully and trying to envision that for our lives. And we have decided in our house, I do not meal prep. That is not something for us, but I think it's really cool if you do and want to get into that. And there are plenty of resources that are really great regarding that, and giving schedules and meal ideas and ways to utilize like bulk ingredients in several recipes throughout the week. I think that's really smart and really great. Not for me, which is fine. So what I want to talk about is meal planning. Meal planning is something that works very well with my personality and with the commitments, responsibilities, and deeply held convictions that I have inside of me and that we have kind of put over our entire family. It works really well for our household, for the activities that our kids do, for the things that we're involved with inside and outside of the home. I would recommend it to anybody. I have people who will come over to our house and they will comment on our meal planning board. It's like this cute little chalkboard thing that hangs in our kitchen, and it has, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I have the dinners listed out for each of the days. And it's really simple. It's really easy. It might take a little extra work on the weekend to think through it. But for me, I am somebody who struggles with in the moment decisions. Any of you who are indecisive, I'd love to hear from you about how that's been difficult for you. I'm indecisive when you put a menu in front of me at a restaurant, if I'm at the grocery store picking something out for an impulse buy, which is why I don't impulse buy, because it's just too hard to make a decision. There are so many decisions to be made, and we are constantly bombarded. And what I do not want, this is the way that I grew up and how my mom decided meals is 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m. would hit and she'd go, okay, what do I have in my fridge and what can I put together? Mom, that is so great. My brain cannot work that way. I just get too roped into feeling very stuck in those moments. So if you've ever had that kind of cursed 4 p.m. time period where you're like, what am I going to make for dinner? Shoot, it's going to be nuggets and mac and cheese again. There are only so many days in a row you can have nuggets and mac and cheese, you guys. So what I would suggest again and again and again is meal planning. I'm going to tell you how I do it. I think that that's so helpful because I remember what I loved doing is like since the kids were babies is asking other people for a sample schedule. And that gives me a template to work off of to tweak and adjust in different ways to my liking. Okay? So I want this to work for you. So my process for meal planning. Oh, I love meal planning. Saturday night, Saturday sometime, I sit down with a piece of paper and my calendar. My calendar is on my phone. We use Timetree, essentially the same thing as Google Calendar. We love it. It works for us. It helps my husband and I be on the same page in putting in, our dates and our commitments and obligations and things. So I sit down with a notepad and I write down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I go through my calendar for the next week. And for example, let's say Monday, one of my daughters has an after-school program from 4 to 5. My boys have wrestling from 4 to 5:30. I teach a swim lesson at 5:30. And then the boys have wrestling from 7 to 9. That is very helpful for me to have a bird's eye view of what that day is going to look like. Because if I plan on making a garlic sizzle steak with roasted zucchinis and a creamy sauce that I made from scratch, I am going to be doing this thing at 8:30 p.m. and I will be so frustrated that I picked that, and I will either give up, waste some of the ingredients and the creative brain space that it took to plan that thing for that night, or I'm going to resentfully present it to my overly hangry family at 9 p.m. and then chuck them into bed as soon as they take their last bite, and I'll just be upset and that won't be any fun. So it's very helpful to take a look at the calendar and to plot out what I have for that day. When am I going to have time to make a dinner? Is it a day, an afternoon that is full of obligations, because then I am going to plot out something very simple for us to have. Something maybe even that I can take from the freezer to the oven to the plate with minimal prep work. That's very simple. So I will take a look at my calendar events. My workday is very reliable. I am at work, outside of the home, in the work building, in the school building from 8 to 4. So I am gone during that time. I have had a friend or two say that she always puts the meat in the crock pot the day before, or I'm sorry, the morning, the morning before you're going to eat it. And then it's super tender and fresh when everybody gets home to make a dinner right away. I think that's an excellent idea. I usually have mornings that are way, way, way too full already. I already get up very early and I'm very busy until the moment we leave for work and school to do another thing, even as simple as putting stuff in the crock pot. So that's not something that I typically do. Every once in a while I will. All right. So we have transferred our calendar events, or at least the time that we're going to have to make and eat dinner, over to our meal planning sheet, right? So that's step one. Step two is giving yourself a pat on the back, because that is work and foresight and planning, and I'm proud of you. You did step one. That's always where you got to start, right? Step one, most important. Step two, give yourself a pat on the back. Don't forget that step. Step three then is going to be making our grocery list. Okay, so we're taking a look at the piece of paper that we just wrote down all of the things and the meals that we're going to have. And then we are going to write a line under that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through Sunday. And we are going to list off the ingredients. If you don't want to waste time, an even more efficient way of doing this would be flipping back and forth from your recipe, whether that's on your phone or in a recipe book. I'm somebody who likes to have several tried and true things throughout the week. Let's say spaghetti, nachos, or tacos, shepherd's pie, something like that. Something where like I could make this blindfolded for my family and have made it time and time again, and it's really delicious and always a hit. And then I also like to, once a week try a brand new recipe, something that I've been wanting to do. Usually it's not exotic or anything. Oftentimes it's utilizing the same ingredients that I am going to have in my pantry or fridge. Might need to get a couple new spices or something like that for it. But I like to do that about once a week. And sometimes it's going to be a super, super simple one that we've just got to throw in there because of the essence of time that we have that week. And of course, sometimes we have to think of, who we're hosting. Am I hosting a birthday party on Friday? Well, I'm going to then talk to my kids about, what they wanted for the birthday party and the treat and, or breakfast, special breakfast, something like that. Are we hosting, like a neighbor or somebody from church or my parents or something like that, taking into consideration their likes, dislikes, maybe trying something, new, or doing a tried and true, just depending upon what we want and what that week calls for. So we're wanting to write down the ingredients and putting them directly into your grocery list. I would highly recommend, if you have an iPhone, sorry, Android people, I have no idea what you use. But for an iPhone, I like the Reminders app because my top one is called Grocery List. And so I can always tell Siri, who is this gorgeous Indian British woman, and I love her voice, and I'm so thankful for her voice. I just ask her to add butter to my grocery list, or add cream to my grocery list, or whatever, beyond dairy products only. So I will have a full list in my reminders of my grocery list, and the reminders app can even like segment it out by type. So when you go to the grocery store, if you're in the produce aisle, you can have like the smart list will make it so that you have a produce section, dairy section, frozen section, etc. So that's a really nice feature of that, and I always use that. I don't prefer working off of a pen and paper list when I'm at the grocery store, because that's just, for me, too much fumbling around the pen and the paper. If it drops, it's Wisconsin, you guys. The floors are just gross and slushy, and it gets dirty or it gets lost or it's smudged and I can't read what I wrote. So I like working off of my phone, and then you have the glorious feeling of filling in the little bubble and it disappears because it's completed, and that's so nice. Who doesn't love a good checked off list? So I would like to, another time, I'd like to cut this off right now because we're already getting a little bit too long, but I would really like to highly motivate you to start meal planning. Take a look at your week ahead, write down the recipes you are going to have for each day, and then make a grocery list. Make a grocery list with those ingredients and the items that you're going to need that week. This will help you not impulse buy, which then you have to be dedicated to sticking to the list. But if you are, it's going to greatly reduce your grocery bill. I think it will also help you later in the week, because one thing that I absolutely love is it hits 4 o'clock, 4:30, and we're home. Everybody's undoing lunch boxes, they're doing their chores, we all just got home, maybe even already prepping for the next extracurricular, and I can just look at my board and I can go, okay, we're having spaghetti tonight. Okay, we're having blah, blah, blah tonight. Cool. I can even like put things out for myself on the counter and start prepping things for myself. One of the tenets I live by is like to bless my future self. And then my future self sees the ingredients out on the counter, and I go, thank you, past self. You're so kind. It is so good to be kind to yourself. Future, past, present. All of them. They're all so good. So in another time and place, we are going to talk about grocery shopping. I think that will be next, because that has been such an important thing for me to figure out. And now that I figured it out, I feel like I can conquer the world, right? At least our culinary home world. All right, talk to you guys later. See ya.